Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today's episode is about how change comes when you take action and take action fast. This week, I'm excited to welcome Ricky Yao to the podcast. Ricky is, among many other roles, a content creator who is inspiring ambitious young people who want to live a more fulfilling life. Let's dive into this episode featuring Ricky Yao.
My name is Ricky. I am 25 years old, living in Richmond, Virginia. I graduated a couple years ago from college, and the goal was to go to med school and to become a doctor. And ended up pivoting in it was like 3 years ago now, into real estate. So lots of growth during that time as well. Through that journey, brain surgery back in 2022 gave me pretty much a whole new perspective on everything that I'm going through. And then started posting content about 5 months ago. And then since then, just been sharing my story, my voice on my platforms, and really inspiring, Gen Z uh, folks, individuals who are ambitious and want to live a more fulfilling life, filled with impact and purpose driven.
I think that sounds amazing, and I do think that there's so much to unpack in all of that. Can you tell me, if you're comfortable, tell me a little bit about what that decision was like to take this pivot and change your life in this way?
For sure. So my entire middle school, high school, college was all focused on, going to med school, taking all of the STEM classes. I took my MCATs twice, did my applications, and then the decision to not follow through was definitely a hard decision because, I worked my entire life for that one action. And obviously, I have family, egging me on. And I think when I made that pivot, it ended up being very relieving looking back because it prompted me to go on a big development journey that I otherwise would not have. Instead of following kind of status quo and doing what my parents wanted, doing what kind of society says, what society deems, successful for people who, prestige with job and being a doctor, lawyer, etc.
I think that makes so much sense, and I'm sure there's so many people listening to this that might be feeling some of those feelings, so I think that's exactly why I wanted to talk with you because I think you just really made that decision, and now you're in a completely different world as far as your career. But tell me about the content that you create. Give me, like, a sneak peek for people who haven't seen some of your stuff. What is the content that you're creating?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started posting content 5 months ago, back in May, and essentially my goal with that was to share with uh, ambitious 20-somethings, Gen Z individuals that you can really forge your own path, and success isn't dictated by what other people say or think and what society tells you to do because of my non-traditional path. So whether it is pre-health, whether it is going to real estate and then pivoting out of real estate now to content full time, working in sales, all of those different things, success is what you define it as. And as a guy in their 20s, it's very powerful when you are building something that's very impactful, as opposed to living at the standard that other people don't even know what is.
I think that's so interesting. When you say as a guy, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I think that that's such an interesting thing that you brought into this is maybe there are different expectations as far as young women in their 20s and maybe young men in their 20s. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, also as a first generation immigrant son, essentially my job was to provide for my family. And that was always my goal, was to retire my family, take care of them. And in order to do that was to make a lot of money, have a prestigious job, aka success, and take care of them. But there are so many ways to do that. And now I bring up the masculinity because a lot of what you see on social media and online is, toxic masculinity, hustle culture. And I love hustling, I love grinding, but there's also a balance in guys learning to be respectable, guys learning to be humble with their egos under control, and raising the standard for other men. Because from a lot of conversations I've had, it's the standard of men has really drastically decreased. And that's a whole different conversation I can get into. But I think that's something that, as you have more life experience, you'll find, why as a guy it's so important to take care of yourself so you can take care of others and build and, find impact.
I think that that is such an important point to make as well. I think that your platform is such an inspiration for people who, like I said, might just want a change in their lives or might need that push to do it. Can you tell me about the Quarter Life Crisis Club? This is a very cool idea. I hope that it kind of expands a bunch because I think so many people would benefit from this. But tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I met my co-founder now through social media, and it was because I made very relatable content to those in their 20s. And going through all of the journeys and all of the experiences from being way down to then turning my life around to where I am now, I think that is something that more people need to hear because it just goes to show that anyone can do it as long as they put their mind to it, as long as they take action. And so we built Quarter Life Crisis Club to be that platform, to be that community where people can come and hear from those who have gone through that significant transformation in their lives, from being lost, being stuck, being confused, and turning that into clarity, into confidence, into the fuel that really propels them to kind of grow and develop and become that best version of themselves, whatever that looks like for everyone, which is different, of course.
What are some of the challenges that you've faced as you were kind of making these pivots in your life? And I'm sure, it's still going, you're still moving through these phases, but especially as a young person and moving into this stage of life, which is so uncertain for everyone. I think 20s, I feel like we're all at different places and that feels so scary, but at the same time, also comforting. Can you tell me about some of the hurdles that you face, some of the obstacles, maybe some of the feelings that have come with some of those pivots that other people might be facing as well right now?
Yeah, absolutely great question. And I had a lot of time to reflect on this. Just having a lot of conversations with a lot of young entrepreneurs is the fear of taking action, fear of doing something wrong, because my entire life I've been conditioned to take a multiple choice exam and not make a mistake. You had to be perfect. But that's just not how life operates. So being scared of making mistakes and being scared of failing, and then failing in public, especially when you're making content online, that was probably one of the biggest kind of challenges. The other is, I would say, judgment from friends, family, those who see this less so as those who kind of see this experience as, okay, Ricky failed, Ricky, didn't do this, didn't do that. And at the end of the day, that just kind of shows other people's insecurity. And as long as you have a bigger why to what you're doing, you're going to be successful in whatever way you define that for yourself. And as long as I know that I'm staying true to myself and being authentic, that judgment doesn't really affect me anymore. So I'll say fear, judgment, and because of all that, it leads to analysis paralysis, perfectionism, all the different kind of subcategories that it kind of causes. But I think when you take messy action, and you fail forward and you fail forward fast, that's when you gain so much clarity and gain so much momentum. And that's kind of what really kind of propelled me and allowed me to grow in the way I did.
I think that was so well put, and I'm sure that so many people listening to this are just probably like, "Oh, okay, I feel these things," and that's just great to hear. I would love to know who inspires you. You're mentioning conversations with young entrepreneurs. Who is that community for you? Are there a few people who've really supported you on this journey or who you really look to? Tell me about that. Just what's your support system? What does that look like?
That's a great question. And I wouldn't say I have, so I keep my circle really small. I protect my energy very, very meticulously because I don't allow negative energy in my life. And so I know one of the biggest challenges that 20 somethings face is community. And that's why we built Core Life Crisis Club, is so that we have a community of those who are like-minded and are vulnerable in their stories, are able to share, and there's no gatekeeping. The support system there, with people who understand exactly what you're going through, who aren't just in your traditional 9 to 5, who have bigger goals, bigger ambitions, bigger passion, bigger projects that they want to work on. I think that motivates me and that kind of gives me that little push. Do I have someone that I, necessarily look up to and want to be like? It's hard to say because it just comes from seeing a lot of people be successful in so many different ways, right? There's so many entrepreneurs online who are crushing it. And then there are also those who are crushing it, but you just don't want to be like them because, they're just not the type of people you want to be around. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly one person, but I will say building a community is far more impactful than having one person that you kind of look up to, just because the connection and the impact that that brings is tenfold.
I love that. I think that is so important in protecting your energy and making sure that you're surrounded by positivity and people who have those similar goals. I think is just spot on. That's such wonderful advice, even though you didn't mean it like that. But I think it's great advice for other people. I would also love to know what is success for you when you're saying, what's next, I guess is another way to put this. Maybe in the next month, next year, down the line. I know that can be kind of a scary question, but what is next for you? What is success?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a couple folds. Number one is building Core Life Crisis into a network of community around the world and hosting in-person events in different regions of the world and in the country. So I just got back from a Forbes 30 summit, and it's very similar to that. We want to bring people together. We want to bring impact and change lives essentially through Core Life Crisis, and through that, level up my content, grow in that aspect, and then also build high income skills. One of my favorite skills right now is sales. So I'm working really hard to master high ticket sales. And I definitely encourage anyone listening to this to find your high income skills and to use that as almost like a launch pad to build what you are genuinely wanting to build. And it's okay if you're stuck, in your 9 to 5 and you're working that. Some people that's what they want to do and they want to build something on the side. Completely okay. So what's next for me is really just building Core Life Crisis Club and attracting as many individuals who are ambitious, entrepreneurs, founders, thought leaders, all of these people who want to grow and make an impact on the world. So we kind of have like a little branch in every different area.
That is wonderful. And like I said, I think that's going to be an incredible community. So I'm excited to follow along with this whole journey. One more question for you. Last question. Lots of young people want to create change and want to make a difference. I think so much of what we've been talking about, they probably have those same feelings that you were feeling. What is some advice that you would like to share with those people who might be listening but don't know where to get started with that work?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's so many different ways to answer this. The biggest thing for me looking back is to just take action and take action fast. I think I've said it a couple times on this call where the more action you take, the more likely you'll fail. And when you fail forward, that's when you gain the most clarity. And you'll learn so much in doing that as opposed to trying to plan everything and be perfect because life happens. That will change so many different things and nothing will ever go planned. But if you just take action, if you're thinking about making content, just post the content. If you're thinking about asking that girl out, ask that girl out. And all of those experiences are data points essentially that let you just take that next step. One thing that really resonated with me is when I first started posting content, I remember someone saying to me, let's say you have 100 lottery tickets, right? On that 100th lottery ticket, you just win big. That's how life is you take as many action steps as possible to get to that 100th lottery ticket. And if you knew that you were going to hit the jackpot, that 100th lottery ticket, you're going to crush 99 lottery tickets as fast as you can. And that's comes with taking action and just doing things and be consistent with it and doing it fast.
It was great to talk with Ricky, and I think his story is a great testament to what can happen when you take action. It might be scary, and you might feel uncertain about making a big change in your own life, but it can be so fulfilling and can lead to making change in so many other people's lives as well. So I want to encourage you to keep Ricky's story in mind, and remember that change comes when you take action and take action fast. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Ricky on Instagram, and I included that link in the description. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I'm working on expanding Be The Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.